Thanks for sticking around, everyone. Please help me welcome back to the stage co-directors Melissa Lesh and Trevor Beck Frost, subject Samantha Zwicker, and also I think we have a couple producers, Joshua and Alyssa. So my first question is for Melissa and Trevor. Can you both talk a bit about your background as filmmakers and how this documentary came to be, and also what drew you to the Amazon and to Samantha and Harry as subjects?
Yeah, Trevor called me, so I'll let him give the actual origin story for the film. But my background is in conservation filmmaking. I've been making short films for about a decade, science and conservation films. So I'm self-taught, didn't go to film school, but just started kind of combining my background in art and science and trying to combine the two. And film seemed to be the most kind of effective way of doing what, communicating the concepts and the ideas that I was interested in.
I'm a failed photographer, and so I was trying to find a news story for National Geographic magazine in the Peruvian Amazon, and I was hoping to do it on anacondas, which are the largest snake in the world. And I'd been looking for about 50 days. I spent 60 days overall looking for them, and we only found 2 at the very end via Instagram of all places. And about day 45 or so, I was sitting in a hotel room, miserable, not sure what I was going to do next. And Harry Turner walked by me, and he didn't have his shirt on. He was covered in tattoos then, obviously. And a friend of mine that was sitting next to me that was helping me with the Anaconda Project said, "You see that guy with the tattoos, you'll never believe the story that he has." And he told me a little bit about that. And then about 3 days later, I was in a hotel room with Harry and Samantha, and they brought a hard drive, and they plugged it into my computer and showed me the footage that they filmed together of Khan, the first cat. And I was blown away by what they had filmed and the story that I heard about. And then a month or so after that, I was home finally and thought that we were going to make a short film about Khan, and it was going to be sort of a memorial piece. And Samantha calls me on a satellite phone and says, "Hey, Trevor, I think you're going to be spending a lot more time in the Amazon. We've just gotten another ocelot." So that was kind of how it all came together.
Yeah, and what was the time span for filming?
Yeah, that was the first trip we went down that fall of 2018. So that was the first trip of, I think, 13 trips to the Amazon in about a year and a half. A lot of time, but a lot of back and forth. But Sam obviously is living down there now full time. So.
Yeah, and for Samantha, you let Melissa and Trevor capture your life for months and maybe years, and allowed your intimate interactions and struggles to be captured and put on display. What was that experience like for you? And was there never a point where you thought, no more filming?
I think there were always multiple points where we both felt like, okay, maybe this is like we need a little space, and Melissa and Trevor were always really understanding of that fact. But I think when you make the decision to kind of like let people in, and like at that point we were all like really good friends. We had been living together on the same remote platform in the middle of nowhere, and so we all knew each other really well, quite intimately in different ways. I can show you videos of the documentary I'm making about them.
Don't watch it.
But yeah, I think that you make the decision like, okay, we're going to let people into this world, and that's kind of, we just jumped all in and kind of never looked back. And, very happy that we did that.
Yeah. And can you give us a bit of an update on how things are going for you and Hoja Nueva and maybe Keanu as well?
Yeah, of course. So as they mentioned, filming kind of stopped between 2019 and early 2020. And so much has changed since then. Hoja Nueva has become like the first carnivore rescue center specific towards felines, but we work with all carnivores specific to rewilding. And we obviously had lots of struggles and challenges, and we learned so much from the first 2 ocelots. But we've grown. We run a full veterinary center. We have, right now 15 cats in our care, all of which have, the end goal of being reintroduced into the wild. And that's kind of why we're there. But we've, partly because of this film and the support that it's gathered, we've been able to really grow our efforts and rescue hundreds of animals since Khan and Keanu.
And And I think you mentioned to me earlier about Keanu. You haven't seen him for a bit, but how's he doing?
No, he's doing great. I mean, the film ends and it's, him on camera trap. And it wasn't the only camera trap video we've ever gotten of Keanu. He, we were able to see him several times. He visited, I would only visit the platform once a week for the first bit. And he had a close encounter with a caiman, which brought him back to the platform, with like a limpy leg. And, it's just kind of like that. We had a bit of an interaction. It's the first time I've ever actually interacted with him as an adult. And then after that, we captured him on camera maybe 6 times. And then our camera traps, because of COVID, we couldn't replace them, so they just slowly died from the humidity. And, we have like the last footage of him before he kind of dispersed out. They have a range of over 20 square kilometers sometimes, so it's not shocking that he went beyond the range of our camera traps. And we know he's out there somewhere, and I hope to one day capture him. We have his, I don't know if people know, but like every spotted wildcat has a different pattern, and so you can identify him or all of them. And so as soon as he pops up, we have an algorithm that can identify that and let us know.
Oh, that's super cool. And for Josh and Alyssa, I heard it was a 4-year process to complete the film. Can you talk about that journey and the process of getting the film onto screens and now soon to be on Amazon?
Sure. Alyssa came out before me, but I actually, my past life, I was a snake in the Amazon, and so I worked together with other snakes to keep Trevor from finding them so that eventually he would find Harry.
This is why we keep Josh around.
Thank you. No, they came to me and they were like, hey, we have 1,000 hours of footage. Would you like to edit it? And I said, absolutely not. And then they slowly, then they said Alyssa was on, and they slowly wrote me in, so.
Yeah, that was great. I came on the project around toward the end of production when you guys were doing your final shoots and looking to find, I think, build the team for post-production. You did everything really all yourselves, the 4 of you in that on that platform, and it was extraordinary. So when I saw some footage, I just thought, God, this speaks to. It's so beautiful, but also so meaningful, and that's not, you don't always get that, in a documentary, and so real. And also when I found out about the way that you were working together and collaboratively with, between the directors and the subjects, and in the filming process, and the kind of the way you were doing things with such trust, it's something that I really wanted to be a part of, and I'm grateful that you let me be part of it.
Also, there's a special song at the end of the film. Can you all talk about that?
Yeah, this is the first screening with the original song, which we're super excited about. Written by Robin Pecknold with Fleet Foxes, performed by Fleet Foxes, and also performed by Tim Bernandes, who's a Brazilian singer-songwriter, who was on tour with Robin just this year with their new album, Shore, which is incredible, if no one's heard it yet. And actually, Robin's going to be performing it live in LA on the 10th, which is going to be incredible. It's up for an award.
And that came about also as part of our collaboration with Amazon and the Amazon creative executives, Alex and Scott, thank you so much, and Marcus and the music team, and really seeing that we could partner with a musician, and Melissa and Trevor, and could work so collaboratively to come up with a concept and see it through.
And there was also elements taken from Patrick's score with this, of how can it kind of weave its way into and mirror in many ways or complement this incredible score that's already in place, different instrumentations and rhythms to kind of seamlessly bring it all through.
Well, it's a beautiful song. And before I open up to the audience, I'm just also curious how Harry's doing. Any updates on that?
Yeah, he's currently not in the country. His visa ran out, so he's in Mexico right now. But he's doing well. He's engaged and looking to start his own nonprofit. I think one of the things about mental illness and something that he struggles with is it's not something that you can just make it go away, and it will probably always be a part of his life and something that he'll have to work through and hopefully continue to heal from. But yeah, I think he's doing as well as we could hope.
That's great. Any questions in the audience out there? Yeah, you in the back. Yeah, question
Want me to
about
get
the
that one?
intense bonding.
You want me to get that one? Yeah, so I'm super happy that you brought that up. Actually, like the first question, it's great. It is an intense process to receive an animal as a baby, because one thing that we've realized is that if you kind of put them separately in like a kennel or a box somewhere and you don't have any interaction with them, they actually do pass away. And we've tried this in multiple ways and worked with many veterinarians on what we can do. And so when you have an animal from a very young age, it's actually very important to provide them with love and comfort. What happened with Keanu was that he was provided with a little bit too much love and comfort at an older age. So we've really like learned from that process that you see in the film between Harry and Keanu, that bond that they developed to the point where he would return to the platform and just couldn't really go off on his own because Harry was his family. And I think that was a really important thing for all of us to learn. Everyone who works in wildlife rehab, like you want so badly for an animal to be successful, but sometimes you project what successful might mean. And when you're really close to them, it's really hard. And I think letting go is equally as hard for the animal as the human, and you don't really recognize that. So, I mean, just with Keanu, it was such a learning process. And like for me, like sticking around like the months after and being at the platform, and he would come by and he would always have a snake or a rodent in his mouth, you know, and he'd be like, and sometimes he would leave it for me like a domestic cat would do, just as like a gift, and he'd walk off. And it was magical. And like you could tell he was successful. He was hunting on his own. He was living. But there was still that piece of him that was connected to that place. And yeah, so we've learned a lot from that process, and now we do things extremely differently, mostly like zero contact, except for the first couple of months, like 4 months of their lives, which is really important to create a bond, but not an attachment. And yeah, and so we've grown a lot from the process of what you see here. It's beautiful, and it's a lot of the struggle in the relationship, but you know, it always, you know, I think it's good for educating people at the same time. You know, wild animals are not pets, and they can't be, and it's very dangerous to think of them that way. So we also want to get that message out into the world as much as possible. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, I would just add that that one of the things we thought that was so beautiful about the story was that it was an origin story of an incredible organization, incredible people doing amazing work. And I think that we live in a world today where people are very quick to judge and criticize others, and they aren't very quick to actually do something about problems in the world. We've seen all the videos of it where like someone's laying on the street and they just got hit by a car and no one helps them. I was a paramedic for many years, and I can't tell you how many times we showed up and people were afraid to help the people in the car accident because they were afraid of getting sued. And that's just kind of crazy to me, you know? And so we always felt that this was just like a beautiful way to show two people that saw a wrong and did everything with the resources that they had at the time and the knowledge that they had at the time to save a life. And you know, now fast forward all these years, you know, as Sam said, they've evolved so much, and the work is really extraordinary and changed tremendously, and following all the, you know, best practices out there.
I'll say I want to give a shout out to Lawrence Everson, who's here, who did the incredible sound in the film. He trekked to the jungle with an incredible microphone system and lived there for months. And the reason why it sounds like you're in the jungle is because of that. So yes, shout out to that man there and his incredible team.
And he was attacked by a guan, if anyone knows what that is.
Giant bird. Lawrence can tell you at the reception after the screening all about that story. One of our secret weapons is in the room tonight. Her name's Mallory Bracken, and she's our associate editor and co-producer on the film. And she went through every single minute of footage, over 1,000 hours, and categorized it meticulously. We didn't really know what we were doing when we started this film in 2018, and that was part of it, was we didn't really know what was normal in terms of creating like a footage log. And she just went so above and beyond. So that was part of the sifting process of like, what is the best of the best? You know, there's just so many moments. There's footage that I'll never see, you know, that of Keanu or you know, obviously Trevor and I were filming, Sam was filming, but there's just so much we couldn't look at it all in the edit. So to have, you know, a team, we had a solid team of editors and assistant editors, and being able to sift through was really critical. But as far as the structure, you know, Josh, we can both talk to this, but I think it was exactly that. How do we continue to refine this so that we're hitting those highs, hitting those lows, like constantly building, and the onions peeling back while you're going on that roller coaster too. You're learning more about these characters. You're going deeper with them. You know, as we were close, and you know, as we were learning also about elements of the story, you know, with Samantha and her backstory, that some of that didn't come through until like halfway through production. There were conversations that I was having, you know, about my childhood and trauma that I experienced for the first time in my life as an adult. So I think, you know, the making of this movie was also partially therapeutic in that way, because we were all like in this really remote environment in the jungle with just cameras, you know, and that kind of lends yourself to talking about things that you might not otherwise talk about. And so to capture that on film and on the screen was, how do we construct it in a way that felt true to our experience, you know, was going deeper, and the joys and the beauty of this place and kind of the life experience, while also holding the rawness, you know, the tragedy, and how can we push those in the equal and opposite directions as much as possible.
Yeah, I would just add that something that I always try to say is that I think that we have an enormous amount of gratitude to give to the rainforest itself. I don't think that we could have made this film if it were made anywhere else, because we lived on this platform together, literally 20-foot by 30-foot platform. It was the four of us living there. Sometimes it was just two of us living there. And so we became a family. And no one could go anywhere at the end of the day. And that meant that we were there for everything. And so, you know, when someone had diarrhea, like, we all knew it, you know? And yes, it was me a lot. And when someone was struggling, we were all there and we all knew it. And when there was a happy moment, you know, we all knew it. And I'm sure this isn't lost on any of you that, you know, you look at, like, you go to family vacations now, and half the time everyone's just sitting on their phones. Well, out there at the time, there was no cell phone connection. So you had no choice but to actually just be with other people. And so I really thank the Amazon rainforest itself for, you know, helping us create this film. I truly don't think we could have made it anywhere else, because we were just kind of living actually as humans were meant to live. And that wouldn't have been the case if we were making the film, you know, in a place like Los Angeles, for example. Yeah, different kind of jungle, obviously, here.
Yeah, I mean, I think typically with this sort of thing, we're wrapping our heads around what the story is and constantly whittling it down and trying to find moments. And, you know, for Harry specifically, like the camera, in a lot of ways, we started to realize as we sifted through, you know, thousands, I mean, it was really over 1,000 hours of footage. You sift through that and you start to realize, you know, in a way, the camera had this sort of therapeutic effect. We were talking about the other day with Harry as if it was a Wilson from that movie, but Castaway, yeah. But from my mind, it was always that movie 127 Hours, where he had this camera with him, and it was a way for him to. He was alone, you know, for 500 days. He was in the jungle, and for most of that, he was alone. And so this became a companion for him and a way for him to open up and talk about a lot of what he was going through. And I think, you know, yeah, there was concern along the way as we were building this stuff. How and when do we share it? And that's usually the case, you know, with us in making docs. Like, how do you show it to them in a way where it feels like there's room for feedback to be taken in, but also a space where we're comfortable, where we're happy with the film. And I think, you know, it ended up working out really, really well. We've gone through a lot of screenings with them, and you know, everybody seems to be really happy with it. So I think, you know, a lot of that is built upon the foundation of the relationship that Melissa and Trevor established with them initially. Like they were saying, they were living out there. So I think, you know, becoming a family and becoming friends is probably, you know, the film would not have existed without that.
Yeah, I mean, quite often, actually, the two of them, Harry and Sam, were always telling us to film. You know, there were a lot of moments, as you could imagine, where things would go wrong. And when you're out in a place like that, you rely on each other in a very real way. And so, your instinct is to put the camera down because sometimes there's something that's more important. And often Sam and Harry would say, keep filming. There was one time when right before Harry leaves the jungle and you see him get stuck in the mud, that actually happened as he was leaving. It was like the jungle didn't want him to go. He was carrying a gas tank on his back up this hill, and he had a catfish in his other hand that he was going to cook, and he slipped and fell, and the catfish barb went in the side of his hand and came out the other side. And I really wanted to take him to a doctor and have it extracted properly, and he was intent on having it ripped out and also on having me film the entire thing. So I filmed him with it dangling from his hand all the way to me pulling it out with a pair of pliers. And so it's the kind of thing where it's my instinct was to put the camera down and just help him, But Harry and Sam both were always just keep filming. So we just listened to their orders.
Okay, maybe a little bit. No, I think just my only addition to that would be that I think when we started this thing, especially because it was going to be a short documentary about Khan, it was all about the cats and showing the beauty of the jungle and kind of, and memorializing them a little bit, but having people know their names and remember them. And I think, especially for me, I can't speak for everyone, but you don't actually think that the footage of you or of you talking is going to be in it at the end of the day. No, just from a genuine perspective. So you think you're going to see this, film about the cats in the rainforest and stuff. And then, I only watched, one cut of the film, and it was right before it was showing in the screening. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm actually in this. And I think that was probably the way that it was supposed to be, but you never really expect for yourself to be in it as much. I think that it helps people relate to the cause and relate to the story a lot more, but when we started, I think we always thought it was going to be just the cats, if that makes sense.
We are going to have a film website that's going to be up with so just shameless plug, the film will be in theaters December 21st and on Prime December 30th. So there will be a website that you can, see all the showings and things like that. So maybe we'll have a little section at the bottom that says Keanu print, just for you.
I don't know. I have a Keanu print that we're doing a showing in my hometown in just a couple of days, and there's a couple of Keanu prints that people can get there. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Bainbridge Island, if you guys.
Yeah,
know
yeah.
anybody.
That's I have I've printed a bunch of Keanu photos that I've made, and you could always get in touch with me and make a donation to Hoja Nueva, and then we can do it that way. That's probably the best way. We can help Sam and all of our team continue their work.
Yeah, we're on Instagram, Wildcat Doc Film. I should know it. I run the damn thing. Wildcat Doc Film. We're on Instagram, so just reach out, and we post screenings and stuff there too.
And just thanks again, coming from photography where you're sort of a lone wolf and you're by yourself. One of the great joys of making a film is that you're surrounded by people that are helping you in every way. And, as you get older, you realize not what you're good at, but what you're not good at. And so you can surround yourself with people who make up for your deficiencies. So I just wanted to say thanks again to Mariah Wilson, Mallory Bracken, Lawrence Everson, Patrick Johnson, Trevor Groth, and Alex Pennebaker. I think I didn't forget anybody, but they all believed in the film, even at times when we had lost hope. And that's a really, a lot of these films, I think put too much credit on the directors, so it wouldn't have been possible without everyone else.
And our incredible producers, and Samantha. Thank you. And festivals for getting it out to the world. So thank you, AFI.
Yay. Well, thank you guys so much. We love the film, and thank you all for coming out tonight.
Thank you.